The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Let's go!
Episode 2 of the Leafs All or Nothing Amazon reaction. And so obviously...
AONFR.
That's not what it's called at all.
It should be AONFR. For sure. It
Change
rolls right off the tongue. You know, I
SDPN.
So this is episode 2, and it will talk about episode 2 of the series. Obviously, if you haven't seen episode 2, you might want to watch it first, or you could listen to us and then watch it. Whatever floats your boat, doesn't matter. But we will have 3 more episodes of this released tomorrow, the next day, and the day after that, just so you know when these things are coming out. And let's talk about this. So it's obviously the fallout from the Leafs and Sens collapse. The Leafs blow a 5-1 lead, and not pretty and not pleasant. And all the same reasons that Sheldon Keefe talks about in the first episode, which continues again and again and again. We'll keep coming back to this. And he says it perfectly in the series. We get up and the game should be over, but it never is. And one of the first scenes you see actually is the two sides of, I think, what it's like to work for or with, however you'd like to characterize it, Dubas and Keefe. Kyle Dubas,
Yes.
bringing Ilya Mikheyev into his ugly blue office. He's wearing a lovely cardigan. Again, take a shot. And Ilya Mikheyev and Kyle Dubas talking about, you know, his place on the team and his role. And obviously, you could tell Mikheyev wants to score. Right? He wants to score more. He wants to be a part of the offense.
It's
hard.
a reminder. It's a reminder that everyone in the NHL is great.
Yes.
Like Ilya
They
Mikheyev,
all were the top scorer in their league, right?
Yes, like he was one of the top scorers on his team. I can't remember which one.
In the K?
I think it was Avangard in the K. He was one of the top players, and that's what earned him a contract. And I remember there was talk about. Remember Babcock took him out to breakfast, and he took him to some like
bizarre thing in Rexdale,
like expectations right next to the practice facility or whatever it's called. And I've been there; it's nice. And you know, he's going to play on the top line with Matthews, and I think it was Nylander at the time. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be Mikheyev, Matthews, Nylander, but then he finds this niche as this sort of third line, speedy penalty killer, low offense, but really responsible guy. And what I thought was interesting about that is we recently discussed on our show how he's supposedly requested a trade because of his lack of ice time. Mm-hmm. And then we see this episode and we're clobbered with that exact issue that has obviously been a problem of his for
months
and months
brewing.
Now, nearly a year.
Yep.
Because that clip is from February-ish?
And
relatively early.
I remember I said it didn't make sense. I'm like, why does he want to get traded? Remember we talked about it on the show.
It's because he's been complaining since February and nothing's really been done because since then he's still been in and out of the lineup.
That's your role. Like, come on, what's the problem? But he doesn't see it that way.
No, he wants some consistency to put up some numbers. He just wants to be every day on the ice.
And I want you to extrapolate this too, because that's just Mikheyev. There are 25, 26 other guys who roll through this roster, taxi squad and otherwise, who all feel the same way. I want more ice time. I want to score more. All of them. And
it definitely contextualizes our conversation about him because he asked for a trade after the season. Mm-hmm. And I talked about it as, well, yeah, he's heading into a contract year. So he has to score this upcoming year because it's a contract year. But no, fresh off of signing a 2-year contract worth over $3 million total, it's not a money thing. He just wants to score. Mm-hmm. He knows he's contributing. He just, I don't know if he does.
I don't know if he feels that way. And I think Kyle's trying to build him up and say, you are contributing. This is the role we want you to play.
And it was interesting that that's how Kyle contexted it. You know, he was trying to build them up and to be like, you are doing stuff with this role instead of being like, oh, no, we need you to do more. He was like, you're doing enough. Like, we like you and just stay comfy in this role.
Good cop.
Yeah.
Then,
good cop.
Yes.
Then, in the middle of periods, and this is, man, the intensity of playing and coaching and doing whatever in the NHL is crazy. So they have a video room that's got more televisions than the back end of a TV studio. Like if you've ever seen the control room of a TV studio, there's like 40 televisions, and I think the Leafs have more.
Can confirm.
It's crazy. And so they bring him in, and you hear Keefe say to the assistant coach, send Mikheyev in. And you know between periods, you get, 15 minutes to just chill? You know that's cutting into his chill time, number one. Right? His break, like his breather, right?
Yeah.
Between periods. Number two, if the coach wants to see you, it's probably not good.
And what caught me about that, I'm trying to remember if this was Mikheyev or not. I'm pretty sure it was. Keefe was like walking through and he asked for him and he knew his route. So he's like, if he's trying to, or I thought the implication was,
like
maybe
if he
I'm
tries to
misreading.
avoid?
If he's trying to avoid it, no. This is the way he walks in. You cut him off and bring him to me.
That's what he said. That's really interesting that you picked up on that.
He's not getting out of this.
And all it was a 10-second meeting. You see this? I don't want to see this. I want to see this.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Over and done.
And that's why you're not scoring. That's why you're not generating offense. That's why you don't have the puck.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing two very different views of the situation. It's sort of like the Austin on defense conflict from the previous episode. Yep. Mikheyev's like, I'm being played in this role. This is why I'm not generating offense. Keefe then busts out a TV and he goes, this right here, this is why you're not generating offense. After getting built up and everything.
Oh.
That's a tough one, right?
Oh, baby.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
This is the tough thing about being a head coach. You're a bad cop.
All the time.
You're a bad cop. And
it's a first place team, right? He doesn't need to do this.
But Keefe is in such a unique position because we all viewed him as good cop when he came in. And maybe he was. Because he was coming into a completely different scenario.
Well,
but
their confidence wasn't there, right?
Their confidence wasn't there. And this season also begins after his first training camp.
Right.
As head coach.
You forget that.
This is his first full season. It wasn't even a full season.
Right. This upcoming season
will be his first,
Yeah.
his first full camp, first full season.
Right.
How unbelievable is that? So now, we talked about establishing precedents last episode. Now he's got 8 preseason games to do that. Establish precedents for the season and a camp preceding that. And if you were at rookie camp, I'm going to yell at you about this and that. And if you're screwing up in the middle of a game, I'm going to bring you in and curse you out about this and that. So now he's bad cop and there's a role. Like, it's bad cop doesn't mean wrong, doesn't mean jerk. But now other people have to play the role of good cop. Dubas has stepped in and been one, and I'm sure the assistant coaches have as well. You have to. If all you're doing is getting criticized, they're going to hate you for it.
I'm sitting here waiting until we can talk about Dubas's kid.
Oh, well, that is the next thing.
Leo.
Obviously,
Leo.
There's the Drake montage, and then there's Dubas's kid. And what I loved about that was he's like on the ice and teaching him how to play hockey, and also quizzing him on when the Leafs win the cup.
And counting the banners.
Yeah. What year was that? No, try again.
Yeah.
You didn't get it right, Leo.
No cardigan for you this Christmas.
Yeah, but that's how I'm going to treat my Leo. Like, no, to get it right. They won in 64, and who scored the game winner in game 6?
Bond.
That was game 7. I'm talking about game 6. No, I'm kidding. Okay. You got the right answer. In this scenario, I'm guessing Leo.
You're berating your child.
But yes, until he gets it right. Bad cop. That's how you learn. Adam can come in and be good cop if he wants.
Uncle Adam.
Uncle Adam, yes.
Uncle Jesse can come in too. But and it's heartbreaking because of the way we know the season ended. But I liked, if we win, we get a new banner.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's so cute. And I wish I didn't know what I know.
I think it's a cool inside look that when you are the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs, you get access to things like professional ice.
You can just hit the ice with your kid.
With your kid and your family. Like that's a cool little perk.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I'm glad he takes advantage of that.
Yeah,
right?
I think you need to.
That's the thing,
You
right?
need to. If you're going to have an office that ugly, you should at least be able to use the ice.
You should get something.
Yeah.
Daddy, is your office up there? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a closet.
His favorite thing is the banners. Daddy can't see those from his office.
Can they move one of the banners into the office to make it prettier?
I
anything.
think the office is fine. Like, I don't know what you guys see.
I'm so
that's wrong.
uncomfortable with
Also,
the
you can only
office.
see like because
Okay.
you can only see like half of the office. I assume it's ginormous, right?
Okay, here's what I'll say. We're an independently produced podcast. Our office is nicer than Kyle Dubas' office.
That's untrue.
That is
That
very
is-
true. This
That's
office
untrue.
is beautiful.
We don't have a beautiful board with everybody's
magnets?
salary cap on it.
Yeah, we should have magnets with everybody in it.
Yeah. Put Steve on the fourth line.
$0.
Can we do that?
$0.
Why don't we do that?
$0.
I think we should do that.
Yeah, we should.
I want to have the roster in front of me.
I like that.
We're on to
We
something.
could do that.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Steal it.
Now,
Let's steal.
what I so
I want to steal their idea.
so we get into the Freddie and Muzzin injuries, right? Freddie's been struggling with all season, and obviously it's Jake Muzzin puck to the face.
Oh my God.
Which is crazy. It's like, oh,
And I forgot about that.
He just broke a bone in his face. I forgot that injury happened too. And what was crazy to me, but I'll let you jump in just a second.
Sure.
What's crazy to me about that whole thing is they show those two and they show the traders talking about it, and then they show the injury ward, which is nicer than Dubas's office, and it looks like an emergency room with Joe in there with the thing, and Wayne, and there's a few other guys.
Wayne has a bone stimulator on his wrist.
Yes!
And I just want to say, if you're a regular person and you fracture your wrist, you're not getting the bone stimulator on your wrist.
It grows actual bone.
I wonder how many sports fans have suffered an injury and been like, 4 to 6 weeks,
Right?
no worries. It's not 4 to 6 weeks for you.
The access to the world-class medical care
It's great.
that these guys have. It's because the whole thing about sports is your body.
Yeah.
That's literally your job is your body.
Yep.
So that's where all the money is gone, and it comes up with things like a bone stimulator.
Electrify your bones.
It blew my mind watching it.
And honestly, it like, again, these guys are like triaging these hockey injuries.
Yeah.
Like there's 2 or 3 doctors in there, and there's 7 or 8 players
In
and they're
between
all,
periods.
like aggressively injured.
And you got to be good.
Yeah.
Because I've told the story before. Luke Shen has the cut on the bridge of his nose that we talked about in previous episodes that you need to get on TV. But his keeps opening because when he was in junior, someone stitched him up improperly.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
It opens really easily because it was stitched
so
up
they
improperly.
can't fix it now.
I'm sure they
Eventually.
could, like once he's
With a
done
laser.
playing. It's probably not worth it. Like guys with missing teeth
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
Or do
Once-
you remember Dave Manson when he played for the Leafs and he could only whisper because he'd been hit with the puck in his larynx, and to fix it, so he used to do interviews and he'd be talking like this.
Oh, I don't remember that
because
at all.
he couldn't speak, and so he when he was playing with the Leafs, and he was like a hard-hitting defenseman, rugged guy, right?
He was an animal.
So when I guess what I remember the interview being at the time, I think it was on Hockey Night, was that he couldn't get it fixed until his career was over. Because if you do it once, you can never do it again. However, they were going to fix it. So at that time, 20 years ago, that would have been the only opportunity he would have had to fix it. So he wanted to finish his career. So imagine this guy's like whispering for years so he could play some more hockey and then get his voice back.
Holy cow.
Isn't that crazy? Crazy.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I'm surprised you don't know that story because you're like Leafs encyclopedia.
Well, I do now.
But yeah, and so you see them triaging this, and you see how important it is to the team, to have Freddie healthy. And I think we sort of, because later on we'll get to this, Jack goes on his winning streak. We forgot how precarious that goaltending situation really was.
Mm-hmm.
Like Freddie would be hurt, Jack would step in. Jack would get hurt,
Freddie
Freddie
back.
would return. And also
No, don't forget Hutch.
Hutch
During
won a few games.
the
Yeah.
Edmonton 3-game winning streak, it was 3 different goalies.
Yes,
his
that's right.
reputation from the previous season is almost unfair at this point. Like
Yeah.
he had, I don't know, a bad game, maybe 2 this past season. He was really good.
Mm-hmm.
He got a shutout in that 3-game series with the Oilers.
That was cool.
Yeah, like he was.
I was actually at the game once when he had a shutout. His first game with the Leafs against Vancouver, 5-0, and everybody stood up and gave him a standing ovation. It was cool.
It's a lot of goalies have come in and had a really good
Start.
debut.
Yeah.
With
It's
the Leafs.
tough to play goal here.
It really is because a lot of is expected of you.
Jesse, I'm time checking you. What are we at?
We got like 15 minutes left.
Right. Okay. So let's get into the Jimmy Vesey story.
Well, did you want to do a little bit more on the Muzzin thing? Because
Sure.
Well, I remember.
No,
how-
I don't. I'm kidding. Get into it.
First of all, it illustrates how nails he is,
Yeah.
and immediately it brought back memories of Roman Polak, who in a lost season, garbage piece of crap, nothing to play for season. Polak took a puck to the face. Similarly to Muzzin, I think Muzzin actually took a stick, but it still broke the bone. Polak returns to the game though with this grotesque, monstrous face. I guess because they're like, well, yeah, it's really swollen, but it's not broken. And he's like, all right, cool, I'll get back out there. That injury was actually debilitating for Muzzin in a way because the fishbowl he had to wear, he would lose the puck in his feet.
Yes.
And that was I remember a big storyline. Just wait till he gets the fishbowl off.
Yeah.
Because, every mistake he would make, you would sort of give him the mulligan of, yeah, but he cannot see the puck.
I also would say, too, like, because these are, it's the edge of a knife when you're playing pro hockey, right? One little mistake and that's everything. It's so blown up, right? Like, you might mishandle the puck once and it's all anybody's talking about. And frankly, teams can capitalize on it like that. That's why it's pro hockey. So, and Muzz is not exactly known for being fleet of foot. He's a good handler, but he's not the guy that's going to blow past you on the ice anyway. So anyway, I want to talk about Jimmy Vesey because this to me is one of the most, as much as Jimmy Vesey's story didn't play too much of a story into what the Leafs did last year. I think the Jimmy Vesey story is interesting because of what they show. And one of the most poignant scenes of the entire documentary for me is Jimmy Vesey sitting down with Dubas, and they're talking, they talk a little bit about throughout the episode, well, we need you to grab a spot. We need you to step up. This is, you're 27 years old, and he's FaceTiming his family and stuff like that at the beginning, and you get to know the guy a little bit, and then Keefe on the ice going, I haven't seen it.
You need a thing.
Can I read the quote?
Please.
I wrote it down because I thought it was so important. Keefe says, "We brought you here with a good opportunity, and I want you to know it's been very vanilla. You got to find something that's going to be your thing." And Vesey's response was, "What you're telling me is that you don't know what my game is, or you don't like it, and I'm going to be out soon." That's one after the other. That's his response to his coach telling him that you need a thing, and you've been very vanilla. I thought that
guy
was
who
like,
began his season with Tavares and Nylander.
Oh,
and scored in the first game.
I think that's
I
don't think it's a great attitude to have.
I was gonna say, what a poor attitude.
It's, sometimes like we do a lot of talking on the show, and
It's all we do.
Talk show. It's all we do.
You might say that's our job.
And I painstakingly, in the moment, try to get it right. And I spend the whole drive home thinking, did I get it right? And before I go to bed at night, I'm like, did I get it right? And sometimes I fail and we fail. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen. We say a lot of things about this team, and I'm like, are we extrapolating? Are we talking about something that's just not there? And Jimmy Vesey's whole story with the Leafs is something we and this entire fan base nailed. Nailed. He didn't have a thing.
What do you do here?
Yeah. And Keefe was not asking him to go out and score 1,000 goals.
Just go. If you want to be a puck getter, go be that guy. If you want to just play hard, be a play hard guy.
Throw a hit.
Get in someone's face. Do something.
Yeah. The puck's not always going to go in.
You're like,
yeah.
The puck's, and then I think later in the episode they show him, I think it was a game against the Canucks, and he was with Spezza, and they clicked, and he scored, and he's happy because goals are his oxygen, right? But it's empty calorie stuff.
Yeah,
it's always good when you score.
But you're not the goal guy on this team.
Yes, just because he scored did not mean he found success or his thing. Yeah. And it goes to the theme of the season, and it goes to Keefe's message of establishing an identity. Mm-hmm. And the team needed to establish a Stanley Cup identity, and all Vesey had to do was establish any identity, and he couldn't do it.
Or didn't want to. And Dubas said a couple of things. He said, we'll get to the scene where we talk about waivers in a second, but one of the things that really stuck out to me is he said, listen, highly touted college free agent, and you want to tell me you got screwed here and you got screwed there. Because, right, he got traded from the Rangers to Sabres or whatever, and new coach takes over with New York, and he's all of a sudden out of favor. Because remember, Jimmy scored close to 20 goals a couple times, right? 17
twice.
Yeah. So he's no joke, right?
Nope.
But obviously, the what Jimmy thinks is that Jimmy got screwed.
Yep.
But at the point now you're at 3 teams. I get one of them is the Sabres. I get it. But at a certain point,
that is pretty tough.
You do need to look inward and go,
Dubas said, here's your opportunity to write that narrative. If you got screwed, prove it here that what happened over there is you got screwed, and here you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
And he couldn't live up to that.
His good games were good. I had that Twitter bit going, be nice to Jimmy.
Yeah.
And then he went on a little bit of a streak, and I'm like, be nice to Jimmy, and I kept doing it. So I don't know. Maybe this is a situation where we're looking too much into, or we're taking too much from his attitude. Like, context is difficult. Maybe he's like trying to joke with Keefe in a very awkward situation. Like maybe he's being realistic. I know, but I'm saying maybe. I'm trying to be maybe guy about
That's
this.
a reach.
I'm trying to, I'm trying to be maybe about this. But he needed to establish a thing, and he couldn't establish a thing.
So then they bring him into the office, and the only other time I've seen a meeting like this is the movie Moneyball, where they tell the guy, okay, you've been traded. So what do I do?
That was also fiction.
Yeah, well, it was fiction, but it was supposed to be
based on real,
right?
Yes.
But with this one, Dubas is looking at him like, okay, I'm sorry, but I got to put you on waivers.
It did look difficult for Dubas.
I don't think that's ever easy, no matter what happens. And then basically then he's got to tell him, hey, we're surprised too, but you got claimed by Vancouver. And I think the funniest reaction to me in a dark way was Shane going in and going,
really?
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, we move on.
All right.
I was you just lost a third line left winger, right winger, whatever. And okay.
It's sort of like that.
Vancouver, huh?
He's like, I got lunch at 2.
Yeah. I'm also wearing a nice cardigan today.
Who's that guy? Was it Jeremy Clarkson? Oh no. Anyway.
Yeah. It was literally that.
I mean, you gotta move forward. But think of the contrast between those conversations between Jimmy Vesey and Ilya Mikheyev. Ilya Mikheyev was a player who was playing well enough. He did make mistakes, as the coach pointed out. Has a role. And the GM instills, listen, you're doing a good job in your role. And then there's this other player who they're like, you don't do anything. So there's one player who is good and doesn't really like his role, but at least he plays it well.
Yep.
Then there's this other player who he just never found a niche.
Right. And that does happen. That happens in any organization, but it's tough to watch because, again, you're looking at a guy with limited time. This is it. And so anyway, it was fascinating. So what's the time check, Jesse? Just so I know.
About 7 minutes.
Okay. So, there's that. And then I love that they transitioned from that, which is a little dark, to William Nylander.
Yeah.
And they sort of introduce him and they're like, different dude.
Shows it's a masterful thing in television to go from something serious and kind of depressing to comedic relief. And for the purposes of this documentary, William Nylander's built in. Like
beautiful.
He's built in. He doesn't even say anything. He just throws on a Mona Lisa smile and you're like, Willie. Like he
seems like a fun guy to be friends with.
Yeah, like we talk about this team like they lack so much. Like last episode we talked about how Joe Thornton has to be the guy who keeps things loose. It's nice to have more of that. Willie to me is the year in and year out loose guy. Everything is loose. Willie has no bad days.
No,
he's the perfect Toronto Maple Leaf.
The perfect Toronto Maple Leaf.
He's exactly what the Leafs need. Somebody.
Does he look affected ever?
He's unaffected by everything that goes on in this city. Like I can't love him enough.
And Dubas describing him perfectly, like in a way that even I'm sure your uncle would be like, all right, fair enough, Kyle. Brownie points.
Dubas also being very honest about his play when they cut to him and he says Nylander handled that puck very carelessly is the exact words he used.
Which is something he does sometimes.
Which is exactly
that's
that.
The
but
right?
It's just sometimes the personality comes out on the ice where he's a little loose and a little careless with his game. But he's so needed in this locker room where I assume the majority of the guys, they take everything, they understand the gravity of the situations, and they are influenced that because how could you not be? You have a guy who understands it, but it doesn't get to him.
We're obviously looking ahead. I'm excited to do this, but in terms of character arcs, in terms of guys who eventually do get the message, Nylander had 5 goals in the playoffs.
5 and 7.
He's a
Right.
monster.
So I'm excited to see over the next 2 episodes that journey continue.
Yes.
Him still not quite getting it, and then it eventually sinking in to where he's literally the Leafs' most productive forward.
100%. By a lot. By a
Yeah.
lot. It's not even by a little. By a lot.
Best player on the team in the playoffs.
So there's a little bit at the end here about, Jack Campbell, and there's, a little bit of an injury thing. Talks about his injury, and then talks about, it hints at, this guy's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to like him. We'll get back to him.
The injury, the game versus Calgary, he tears his groin and he says, I know what a torn groin feels like.
I popped it.
And because I popped it. And then he finishes the game.
And he tells his teammates mid-game, hey, I tore my groin, but I'm going to finish.
That's
Yeah.
the
Hear him
things
do that.
hockey players do.
That's nuts.
Crazy people.
And that was
Crazy.
one thing from the first episode, because I was sort of paying attention to what game we're on. And that game wasn't in it, or at least that moment wasn't in it. And I was like, oh, I wanted to know what happened there. But they're isolating players, individuals, right? From the player stories aren't necessarily chronological. I was so happy they went back.
What moment in the season is that? Because I don't have your brain. The Campbell groin game.
It was early. It was one of his first starts. It was
Okay.
like start 2 or 3.
So it was within that first 10-game window that they highlighted in the first episode.
I'm not totally sure, but I think so.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm not totally sure, but I think so. And that's, Matthew Tkachuk falls on him.
Oh, man.
Dirty.
I feel the
Forgot
same.
about that,
Yeah.
eh?
I feel the same way about it as I did that night. He knew what he was doing. That wasn't an accident.
100%.
Dirty.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's his game, and that's why he gets a lot of money for that.
I
'Cause
also
there's very few players
sometimes-
that do that.
Sometimes I wonder when a player says something on the ice and the building's full, it's probably pretty hard to hear them.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to know what it sounds like on the ice unless you're there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I've never been on the ice in front of a packed stadium. Those buildings are empty. So Campbell's going, oh, I tore my groin. And it's loud enough that like he's still shouting a little bit. It's going through his, he's heaving.
Good chance a Flame
breath.
hears it.
Right.
They know this guy's got a busted. I mean, there's someone probably on the bench going, hey, something's not right with Jack.
Let's make him move side to side as much as possible.
Yeah, but if you hear him say that, this is a vulnerable player right now.
Yeah.
And these guys are in our division. We're trying to make the playoffs. We know we're going to see them a bunch more times. Screw them.
And also, let's not forget what happened at the beginning of the season, which they didn't mention in the documentary, was Jake Muzzin flipping the puck at Tkachuk.
No, I think that was after that game.
Oh, was it after that
yeah,
game?
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
It was.
Oh,
But
that's
it
what
didn't.
it was.
It didn't,
Didn't
make
make it.
that
So,
point. Yeah.
so that part, I'm like, man, no wonder they hated us.
Right.
That was more of a Flame storyline, but it would have
Yeah.
been nice to get Muzzin's perspective. Like,
the audio thing, I was wondering that I had that exact same thought because of how many scenes they had of Keith just yelling on the bench. I know he's mic'd up for the show, but how clearly he's heard. And I was like, all three of us have sat in between the benches there. And I've
didn't hear a
never,
thing.
I don't sit there and be like, oh yeah, Keith's yelling all game, but literally all game he's yelling stuff. And I guess because of the empty arenas, you can hear just him loud and clear. He's mic'd up, but I wonder how that would change going into this season, because you're not hearing all of this conversation happening.
there was a scene at some point, I can't remember when, but the team is skating through the neutral zone and Keith is barking to do something. And if you're the other team and the building's empty, like how do you not just adjust to exactly what he just said?
Right.
Because you can hear it. But what I'm also,
And if you're in row 1 at Scotiabank,
Yeah.
you can hear all that.
I'm also laughing at the fact that I've sat between the benches more than once. I never heard a player say a single thing. That's how soundproof it is. But at a playoff game, I once yelled at the Bruins so loud that half the bench turned around.
Right.
That's how loud I am.
So,
I give her.
lastly, before the episode ends, and again, foreshadow, big time foreshadow, Keith with the quote of the episode. I'm not sure that teams believe we are what we think we are.
Which
Ugh.
was quoted several times throughout the year leading up to the playoffs. Remember, there was that anonymous player. I'm not impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's good team has major flaws.
They're first in the division, but nobody around the league is scared of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And
It
even
was tough.
if he believed in their progress, which it doesn't sound like he did, as the head coach, you can't keep your foot on the gas for the players if you don't keep it on yourself.
Yeah.
So that's him constantly reminding himself there's work to do here.
Hey,
The access we have to Keith is so good.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's the best part of it so far.
The one thing I'll say as a fan is that it's nice that they knew. That's the one thing I was validated.
I got solace in that too.
It goes back to what I was saying. I'm like, am I seeing this wrong? And all I'm getting from this documentary so far is we're right.
Yeah.
We nailed it.
They're just not going to communicate that to us mid-season, which you don't blame them
Which
for.
I get. Yeah. Like I always say, like, I don't know if this is rocket science. I think some of it's pretty obvious. And so far, yes, it has been.
Then going into the Montreal series when you were worried.
All right. So tomorrow, episode 3 drops, and it will be the reaction to episode 3 of All or Nothing with the Toronto Maple Leafs. We call it AONFR.
On STP.
No, we don't. Oh. AONFR.
Nope.
Catch it tomorrow.
Terrible
The
name.
Steve
Episode
Dangle
3.
Podcast.
TTYL.
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.